Welcome to today's open tabs conversation. Okay, so we're a little later today, so I say we just jump straight
That
into it.
would be because of my fault. So sorry, everyone. I needed to take a shower.
Perfect. Things happen. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about, last week we had like a flood of celebrities all join Substack like at the same exact time. So we had Charli XCX launch hers last Thursday. We had Dolly Parton launch hers. We had Julia Louis-Dreyfus launch the newsletter component to her existing podcast. And then earlier in September, Rosalia launched a Substack. So I know, like, Megan, you've been doing a lot of thinking on like fandom and stuff in relation to brands mostly, but like, what is it about Substack, do you think, that's like attracting all the celebs right now?
Well, I would venture a guess that Substack is courting them. So I think that they have definitely been, asking them, come over here, saying this is the future, this is the next TikTok. And, as someone who has been on that side of things, trying to court people to new platforms, you always lead with the positives and also the potentials. And I think that one thing you always tell people is that if you're an early adopter, that is where it's like the easiest playing field, because it's like you don't have to as much competition. You're not fighting with all of these other people for space on the platform like you are on TikTok. Substack, it's a lot more narrow and it's a lot easier to get to the top of the algorithm. So if you're someone like Charli, when you're launching, that's a headline. Automatically, you're like shooting to the top of the charts and then you're building success from there. And so Substack is probably going to these creators saying, this is the time, get it on the ground floor. We're only going up from here. But why these creators might be interested in joining Substack is I think that they're also hungry for like forms of expression that feel more aligned with like who they are as creators. And video is pressure. Like you guys know, like it's a lot to have to like make video content. And I think something like writing and something like a newsletter is much more behind the scenes. You can, much less energy invested into it. And then also you can delegate. And I think to cap this all off, everyone's just copying Dua Lipa because I think Dua Lipa has created one of the best like side fandoms. And I love Dua Lipa's music and I also love Dua Lipa's book recommendations. And so I think that is kind of the gold star of like what these people are looking to achieve of doing something like Dua Lipa, where it's like she doesn't have to go out and do promo in the same way because she has that sustained fandom, but it's also like actually interesting to who she is as a person and like life fulfilling. And artists really care about things like that. So that's my long answer about how I think this has all come to be. But mainly I think Substack is asking them to come post on Substack.
I love that. I mean, I definitely agree. And I think that the long form content element of it, of being able to write, so leading with writing, right? Like when we step back for a second, it's like Instagram, if you're going to compare it, led with photos. When the platform started, it was a platform for photographers first, and it sort of branded itself in that way. And I always joke that Substack is doing the same thing, but with writing. Like, it's like, you're an author. This is where real writers come. And so they've sort of, whether or not that's true, like have sort of like marketed the platform in that way. Like, this is like for real writing. And then now it does feel like sort of like the larger marketing exercise of it all has sort of like started to roll out, right? Like earlier this year, the conversation was all about brands that are joining Substack. And I actually think it's funny, like there's been fits and starts where celebrities have joined and then it sort of like levels out and you don't hear much. And it is sort of funny, like actually, and like exciting for us, I think, to have this like new flock of people doing it. And again, I still think that their structure of like leading with paid as well, that there's like the minute you start here, the minute a fandom comes, there's this like already sort of like elephant out of the room kind of thing where it's like, if you want to get the higher quality like fandom access, you're going to have to pay for that. Like, I think that is still enticing to people. And if people are going to invest in social and you're going to pick a platform to be on, like, why not pick the one that has a clear path to monetization versus others, right? Like, I think that that's still what's really intriguing to people and driving Substack forward. And the jury's out, though, how that's working and how that's sustained. Like, I'm just going to say before I before I finish my rant that, like, one of my biggest concerns with Substack is actually for the creators that actually start here. Like, I think the platform is ideal if you are a creator that is bringing a fandom to here, like whether it's from a podcast or you are like a public figure of sorts, or if you're a celebrity. I think my concern is just like whether or not the people who are bringing fandoms here are going to suck all this sort of like monetization out of the room and take it away from potential like homegrown creators. Like, I think that's the one thing I would always like, I want people at Substack to hear. It's like, make sure that as you're building this structure, that there is an infrastructure here for those that are starting on this platform, who are early adopters and who are going to build from here and move elsewhere, and not just court people from other places. Because I just don't know or see that working well long term for the long tail.
I actually have seen one of my favorite Substackers leave the platform. So I love Anne Helen Peterson. She writes culture studies. She also wrote the book Can't Even, which like I highly recommend to everybody. And she moved her whole media all over to Patreon because like it's not working over on Substack. And I'm following her over there. So like, I think that's something that Substack also needs to contend with. It's like, how much of the user base that exists, does it belong to them, or does it belong to these individuals? And I would say even with me and my newsletter, a lot of people we talk to are subscribed to our newsletter, but they don't use Substack. So they're like only reading the letter in the email platform, which theoretically, because we have a paid tier, but there's nothing really there. So we could just move that over. We don't necessarily like all Substack is really providing is like the place to like type things in, but we're copy pasting that over. So I think Substack needs to really figure out what is their value add, but besides the product in terms of like helping people grow.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I think that I think maintaining that ability to come and go is actually core to their success. Like, I think that they have to do that. Like, I think, like, I stand by their, like, sort of thought that, like, if you create a newsletter on here, you can leave with the subscribers. Like, I think that that is awesome. And I really hope that they don't change that. I could see them changing that at some point to really get people sucked in. But I will say, I also think their long-term vision, I suspect, is less about, it has nothing to do with newsletters. It's like newsletter just happens to be like the way in, just like how TikTok is short form video. And it's like that idea, Megan, like every platform turning into itself.
Like every app, everything app. The thing is, nobody wants an everything app except for the apps themselves. Like when you ask consumers, they're annoyed by this. They're annoyed by the fact that every app is becoming each, and they want some of that differentiation and specialization. So while I see why that's the goal, I also think that Substack has an opportunity to fill a very unique hole in the market as media is changing. And also, as I predicted, we're seeing a rise in physical media again and people wanting to hold things. And I feel like I would love to see Substack kind of innovate in that space and like figure out how to help Vogue into the next era versus try to figure out how they could be the next TikTok.
What do you think is the void that they can fill?
So I think curation. I think that right now they're using algorithmic curation, which like they're not doing better than anybody else. But I do think that what people are craving from this long form writing medium is deeper thinking and critical analysis, but they still want it to be curated. And so I think what I want is I want some sort of like, here's what's due, like some sort of, not a trending tab, because that is, again, just algorithmically driven, but some sort of editorialization of, here's some of the really great work that's come from the Substack platform in the last month. And like, we're going to spotlight it, champion it, put it all together in a really beautiful package. if I was the CEO, head of Substack, I would already have a monthly magazine that we are sending out to like people that they could buy that's featuring some of the best. Cause like even now, all of my friends want to be in print. They are like, that's the journalists like who are publishing in big newsletters or big newspapers every week still get most excited when they can go and be like, look, there's my name in print. And so if I was Substack, I would be chasing that, not chasing TikTok, you know?
Oh my gosh, I love that idea. I mean,
Yeah.
you're totally right.
Shaquila's in print this week, and like I'm probably gonna go buy that magazine. So Shaquila's someone for the audience who we profiled at Deco. She's a social strategist in New York, amazing person, and she's in a magazine. And I've never heard of this magazine, never read it. She posted in her story, and it's like a collage of her, and she wrote it, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this because like this is so cool, you know? So I think that is kind of, especially right now where Substack is still in a very reputational building space, you know, where it's like they still need to convince us that we're cool or that they're cool. And like Charli XCX getting on is a step, but everyone knows that she's doing it.
You know what? It's interesting.
So it's like,
it's kind of reminding me of like, A24. We love their social. And they have always maintained this zine, right? And like I feel like the era of the zine never like got its like, like due respect. And when I hear you sort of describe this, Megan, I think it's actually funny and super smart. It like going back to what I was saying about Substack being like the platform for writers who aspire to be authors and like sort of following that path, like building that path for people. And so like even if it's like, yes, like even if it's like a printed edition, great, which is totally giving like the Amazon like printed, like anyone who has a kid right now, it's like the Amazon like printed catalog is like now a thing. Like it's back to like catalogs and like that physical feeling. And so like even
I remember the Toys R Us catalog.
The which one?
The Toys R Us catalog, when that came in the mail, that was always a huge day at my house. And remember, they had stickers that they would give with the catalog, so you could put like, "This is what I want." Like,
oh my god, I don't know if I remember that, but I do remember Delia's, the Delia's catalog, and like, well, no, I mean, but yeah, like, so I think that like you're right, like this idea of even having like a high end magazine that is curated in some way from all of the content across Substack and like creating essays, like how the New Yorker sort of functions.
I think certain people who are very good at, being journalists and writing content, and there are some people, especially on TikTok, who are very good about talking about content and why it's interesting. So if I were Substack, I would be less focused about trying to turn writers into short form video content creators and thinking, how can I connect short form video creators with writers so that they can like work together, and then it can be like they could help each other promote the work and things like that, versus like everybody has to be everything because we want to be an everything app. It's like, no, we want to help you do the thing you do super well in the current media landscape,
in the current media. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And speaking of that, like plus one to that, some people are really good editors. Yes. And I think like I went crazy about this like a year ago now, I feel like, but just
yeah,
there should be like an ability for people to like get their content edited.
You know what they would say? Well, AI can do that.
True. I guess. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Iffy. It's still iffy. I'll still get like spelling and grammar errors from like ChatGPT stuff.
No, yeah, I know. I always tell whenever I'm doing work for a certain client, I put it into the one I know they use, and I say, give me feedback. And it's like lagging, like it doesn't have the most recent data. So it'll be like, you need to fact check this date, it's wrong. And I'm like, no, it's not. That date is correct. Like you're wrong because you're like, you think it's 6 months ago, but you're so confidently telling me that I'm wrong. So yeah.
All you need is one experience in presenting AI content that hasn't been thoroughly looked at, and you will never do it again. I've been in a client meeting where I'm like reading it in real time and like just praying no one is looking at it, and I'm moving on over it and messaging Emma on the side like, please update this doc as fast as possible. Anyways, welcome to all of the new Substackers. Come and check out our publication and Megan's Cool Shiny Culture, Cool Shiny Insights. We're excited to have you here and continue sort of workshopping this platform as we go. So what's our next topic?
Okay, so I'm jumping ahead in the agenda a little bit, but I like this like analog physical media conversation we're having. Very interesting. Shein is getting into selling physical books. This just came out yesterday, so it's hot off the presses. But they're partnering with Alibris, I believe is how you pronounce it. And they're selling secondhand used books. And according to Shein, they're seeing a desire among Gen Z, their like core audience, their core customers, for more analog content. So now they're investing in books. Very interesting. I like browse through the interface. I've never used Shein, and it was like a sensory nightmare going on their website. I counted 6 different pop-ups that I had to X out of. And I'm as somebody a Gen Z who reads analog books, it was just like the interface to even buy a book from them was like so off-putting. I couldn't do it. And honestly, like Shein's thing is the prices. It's all, made in China, so you get things for dirt cheap. I looked at Amazon too, and like the prices are quite similar. So I'm not quite getting like the value add for audiences, but reactions. You guys are both book lovers too. So like, what do we think about this?
So my thing with Shein is that they sell the idea of clothes, the concept, the meme, the concept of clothing. That is what Shein sells. They don't actually sell clothing. And specifically what Shein sells is the concept of the haul, because the haul was not a thing except for like back to school time. You would, do that, or like Christmas. But the haul was not really a thing like it is now until YouTubers and influencers made it a thing. And then Shein gave you the ability to do a haul when you're just a normal person, because if you only have $100, you can buy 10 things, and then you can have that feeling of, I'm doing a haul, I'm doing an unboxing. And so that's really what Shein like was selling to people. And so it's funny to me because books have become like trendy, and like reading has become aestheticized, and I'm all down for that. Anything that gets books in people's hands, fine.
Right.
Do it. I don't care. Like get the books from the houses. Like it's fine. But it's just funny to me that Shein is selling the concept of being a book girly. Like,
I feel like that's the best way to put this. Like, I don't really feel like this has anything like, like, does this go to the bottom line? I don't know. I think it's like, again, it's part of shaping the identity of the customer. And so it's also notable, like, as Emma was saying, like, it's not just any book, it's secondhand book, which is, like, again, it's part of identity. It's like the people who are dog owners at rescue versus going to a breeder. Right? It's a choice. It's a way of being. It's a way to live in this world and whatnot. And so these feel like books as accessories, not like actual books.
Yes.
Which is funny to me, like the fact that they're secondhand, it's like, like they're worn, like they've been traveled, and like it's like having leather bound books, like from
Yes. Yeah. And also this is probably reputational laundering for Shein, because they get so many accusations of being like, not environmentally friendly and wasteful. And so they're like, but look at us though. We're recycling books. So look at us being so green.
Yeah. Like look over here. I don't know.
To say too, when I was browsing their book site, I was talking about like curation. I mean, it was like all over the place the way they were mapping out books. It would be like Colleen Hoover, and then they would be recommending like right next to it some Ben Carson, like some random old politician. And I'm like, who's like, do we think this
I think
17-year-old
that's part. But I was like, isn't that like kind of their method with like fast fashion too? It's just like throwing all the paint on the wall, and like because it's like so low cost, right? Like getting secondhand books is probably like incredibly they're that's probably so inexpensive. That's their business model, right? So it's like I think that the mass randomization, just throwing things at the wall. I mean, Megan, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of your, like, when you talk about, like, the streamers and Netflix, and you're just, like, throw all the content up there and just, like, what sticks. And then I'm sure they'll look at, like, what sells, and then suddenly Ben Carson's books are taking off. No, I'm just kidding. But, like, you know, like, I think that that's part of, it's like the chaos model, right? Like, of, you know, Emma, as you were saying, right? Like, you open up the app and it's like sensory overload. It's interesting though, like not my choice of shopping for sure. Like I can't stand that. I'm more like curated, this is exactly what you need, and then I buy it through an Instagram ad.
I also wonder how this will go, because I feel like, you know, as a book girl, one thing that we say is buying books and reading them are two separate hobbies. And so I feel like this kind of takes all of the fun and joy out of the buying of the book. It's just like the having it. So it's like you've gotten it from Shein, you have it, but that's like the least fun part, because the most fun parts are the buying, the like looking at all the covers and being like, I want this one, and the getting to be like, I read and talk about it and all of that. So just like having books as a decor choice, great, but like isn't going to give the customer the satisfaction I think that they're looking for by buying into the book girl trend, you know? Like they want to go stumble into a bookstore with a latte and like peruse and look cute, and like Shein can't give them that.
See, this is not going for like millennial mom here. Like this is not going for me. Like I'm running into the library, going straight to the circulation desk.
But if that's your vibe, you're going more utilitarian. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have a Kindle. You're not gonna be buying books on Shein. Like
no. Though you never know. But no, I don't see myself buying the books on Shein, on the Shein. But I will never say never, honestly. But no, I don't. Yeah, not in the short term future. But I'm excited for the Shein girlies to read though. More reading, the better, as you said, Megan.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll also be keeping an eye out as I scroll through BookTok for Shein sponsored hauls. So something to look forward to on the feed.
That is funny. It's about BookTok.
It's also, you know, how there's always messages. You know how there's always messages in Shein clothes?
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
no.
Megan.
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. There's always messages snuck in, like help us or like things like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What's gonna happen with these books?
Oh, yikes. Yeah, it's a much better time. So, okay, interesting. I will be monitoring BookTok, and I will keep you guys posted when the hauls start. Okay. This is like
so
really funny. I know, it was like, I have to bring this up. I knew you guys would have thoughts on it. Okay, this is something I've been really enjoying for the past month. I am a big Reddit girl. It's my favorite social platform that I use in my free time. All my little niche interests are there, and I'm very nosy, so I also love it for that reason.
I love this. I love this about you. I work with you and talk to you almost every day of the week, and I love this fact. I did not know. True confessions from Emma.
True confessions. I'm a Redditor. But one of my favorite subreddits is KitchenConfidential. It's a mix of like cooking newbies like myself and like professional chefs. So like it's a very diverse mix of content. And for the past 40 days, I think maybe today's the 41st day, a guy has been practicing his chive chopping skills. So every day for 41 days, he posts a picture of all the chives he's chopped, and he's asking all the chefs to give him chopping tips. And he's marking his progress every single day. And so this is like blown up now, like peep their posts. Like I'm sure it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast. People are posting like, has he posted yet? When is he posting? Like, and his posts will get like 20,000 upvotes, like 20,000 likes. And
Love
like,
the internet. Like, I love the internet.
So fun. And he's completely faceless. He's completely anonymous. We just get a picture of like a pile of chopped chives every day. And a recent development is that brands have started trying to get in on the action. When I scroll through the subreddit now, I'm getting targeted ads from like Philadelphia cream cheese and their chives favorite cream cheese. I'm getting targeted ads from Lay's chips. And it's been really funny to see like Reddit, as we've talked about before, is like a very sticky place for marketers and brands to be. And the reaction to this has been very big and very negative. I think it's partially because this is like a little secret community and now it's getting more mainstream traction, and Reddit doesn't always love that. But one thing that made me laugh was a meme was posted there yesterday that we posted over a year ago. Megan, you sent it to us, and it's about like how a meme is going on online. It's so much fun, and then a brand joins, and the party totally ends. So I wanted to talk to you guys about like brands in general engaging in these like viral meme moments, and like, is there a way to do it in like a net positive way for the brand without getting like big negative reactions like the subreddit is seeing?
I mean, I think we're in an impossible moment right now where it's like, as a brand, you have to do this, but also like, unless you are an inherently cool brand, you will get a little bit of backlash for showing up at the party. And like, the thing is, once you're there, you got to win people over, you know, like you got to prove why you have the right to be there. And I think we wrote about this and we kind of talked about that. Like, and I actually think I don't think it's that bad that they did ads, but I'm a marketer, so I'm like, like, what do you want them to do? They got to spend the money somewhere and they got to get you to buy the product.
Yeah.
But I think I would prefer ads to comments and things like that because it feels at least more like acknowledging of this relationship being transactional versus like a comment where it's like, let's be friends, guys. I think that can feel a little bit cringe, you know? So I think maybe this is a messaging thing. I think maybe these brands in Reddit should have kind of figured out a way to make this more celebratory, to be more of like validating, to be like, hey, you guys are having a party and Lay's, who was it that wants to come? You said the Philadelphia cream
cheese and Lay's so far.
Yes. Philadelphia cream cheese, instead of crashing, what if they just like bought everybody a round of shots? Like, what does that look like? You know what I mean? And I think that the ad kind of was that, but how can Reddit do a better job of messaging that and being like, this trend is now made more fun by contributions from brand versus brand is trying to piggyback off of like community you guys are creating and enrich themselves. Does that make like it's a very nuanced difference? But I do think that is where the consumer is coming from. And I think they're just also like very sensitive right now. It's like everyone's strapped for cash. The holidays are around the corner. They don't want to be told like from brands buy our stuff right now. Like they're upset. And so anytime a brand makes themselves known, they're going to get more backlash than I think they would have probably a few years ago.
I would agree. I also, I have so many thoughts on this. I feel like stepping back for a second, Reddit is a space where I feel like people feel safe right now to go and sort of gather anonymously, like have conversation. And so I do think like that platform in particular has a certain level of sensitivity to brands coming in. It's just not Like, it's not prevalent. It has existed for quite some time now before brands are sort of making their way onto the platform. And so funny enough, I actually just talked about this last week with our client GoFundMe. We were at the Future of Communications Conference in Austin, and I was with our client there. Her name is Sarah Peck. She's VP of Communications there. And so we were talking a little bit about how GoFundMe approaches the platform. And, there's sort of like this like really thoughtful twofold approach. One is that the brand actually maintains this ongoing relationship with the moderator of the GoFundMe subreddit. So like for those that are not familiar with Reddit, like oftentimes brands don't actually own their own subreddit. Like that's what's sort of crazy. So it and then the other thing that GoFundMe does really, really well is that they listen. They use like, tools like Meltwater. They use search. And so like it moves at the speed of news. So like when something's happening in the news cycle, they respond, they like find where conversation's coming up, and then they like approach each subreddit like really thoughtfully, like from like being a person at GoFundMe going in there and like representing, like being like, how can I help? And like, how can we like offer sympathy and support? And like, what can we do for your community? So like, it's very much this idea of like looking at all of the different subreddits as like little neighborhoods. They're digital neighborhoods. And you can't just like go in there with like, signs and like billboards. Like you really have to go in with like a sense of humanity, which it all goes back to like this idea of like this larger theme that you've talked about, Megan, of like, everything is like going back to real life, right? Like we're going back to like magazines, we're going back analog, we're going back to books. And like, I think Reddit, if you are a brand and you want to be on this platform and you want to do this in a thoughtful way, and I do think that this is like a two-part when it comes to a meme. So it's like, if you're a brand on Reddit, you need to think of it like, it's like fewer high quality interactions are going to get you so much more than just like traditional reach, right? Like I think reach is like not necessarily like the metric you want to go for on there. It's more like a couple high quality interactions that are bringing high value to a neighborhood or an individual or a moderator is going to get you so much more than if you just like blast an ad. And I was going to say, I think like with something like this meme, what comes to mind for me is like, one, again, first of all, chives. Like, I don't know why, like, this made me laugh so hard, but like, there's a lot of chive shopping like, in my like For You pages right now. Like, I don't know why. Like, there's this like guy, he's like a Beverly Hills private chef, and like he broke down how to cut chives the other day, and I legit watched this video, and it is nuanced. Like you really have to be like, you make sure they're dry, you have to make sure they're like really specific. It's like there's like this whole thing to it. So I like have not looked at this subreddit, but I want to go and look at it. But like again, if I am Philadelphia cream cheese or like I'm Lay's, like I think it's more like, how do you go into this situation where people are talking about this and add value? Like, can you, like you said, Megan, like give everyone a QR code to like go and like, go buy a bag of Lay's to like, go and make like a dip with chives, or like, is there a recipe, or can you go in with a creator that like actually has some equity in this space? Like, is there a chef that you could go in there with who has already appeared in there and like sponsor them and be like, hey, like, you guys, I'm sponsoring. Philadelphia cream cheese wants to get in on the conversation, and I'm going to help them do that, like by doing XYZ and like sort of going through that way. Like, I really think like in today's ecosystem, like Megan said, it's kind of a lose-lose for brands. Like you kind of have to do it, and you kind of have to like run the risk of looking stupid, and then you run the risk of getting criticized. But I feel like the North Star is like the human path. Like, how do you act like how you would act in a real neighborhood with real people, or like a real person who is running a real thing? And like, what would you do? Like, would you run around again with like billboards, or would you be like, hey, like, do you make a friend and how do you get in there? Like, again, and add value. Like, it's they're real people, like add value to that conversation by way of your brand.
Yeah, I also think, like I said, I just think like Redditors are like the curmudgeons and the grumps of the internet. And I feel like brands really struggle on Reddit with like reading the vibe and the tone of the platform. I think brands have had, obviously, like Instagram, brands know how to communicate there. Brands have like adapted to internet Gen Z speak for platforms like TikTok. But with Reddit, at least in the examples I've seen in just this little tiny case study, like there's an earnest, like there's just, it doesn't have that edge that a platform like Reddit needs. So I think it's like partially like, yes, 100% human, like, and also reading the room. Because and having somebody who's familiar with the platform in charge of like how you communicate on the platform. Like with GoFundMe, it's a former person from Reddit who runs their GoFundMe Reddit. And that's partially why it's been so successful, is because she knows the platform and the users in and out. Okay, our last conversation, Melissa, you mentioned it in your Reddit spiel, but your conference last week with GoFundMe.
Yeah,
Please tell us.
It was really fun. Thank you for asking. It's fun that this is this is one of the topics. So I was really honored to be able to do this. Even after well over a decade of working at, in other corporate companies, NBC and CNN, I was never, in a position to be asked to be to speak about my work. And so it was really fulfilling to not just be able to do this, because I'm really proud of the work that we do with GoFundMe, who we've worked with for over 2 years, but also to do it on behalf of Empty Deco. And so, so we were part of one of the tracks that people who were attending the conference could attend. And Sarah and I presented together, and we sort of talked about how, we're sort of in this moment of shifting in social media. Like, if it feels differently right now, that's actually because it is, and I went through like this timeline history of like, it started out in the broadcast era, sort of like brandcast MySpace, where, reach was everything. And then it was the curation era, where like Facebook, where everyone became their own editor. Then creator era, so TikTok and others, where individuals like built influence off of their audiences and their content. And then right now, we're in the community era, right? Where it's like, you actually can, it's more than just, it's like audiences are gathering around shared beliefs and belonging, and it's not just about the content, right? And so this idea of like community, coming up and sort of evolving into this concept of, like I referenced, but like digital neighborhoods, I think is really like a major shift on how social media managers need to be thinking about running social at brands, right? And again, like anyone who has worked in social, like we've already moved through this evolution of like how 10 years ago there were platforms like Hootsuite and you would publish the same thing everywhere. And then we've sort of evolved into this space where there's like, social platforms, and like they each have a purpose in a digital ecosystem. And I think now it's like, it's really even more fragmented. It's like within each of these platforms, then there's these communities too. So I think like the whole message really, it was exciting. Like I talked about the history of that, or, the transition of that. Then I talked about how understanding these communities is actually like, like in order to be successful, like you have to deeply understand them, right? It's not just about like sort of relying on assumption, which was why at GoFundMe, we actually fielded this report called The Social State of Giving that we worked on with Megan, which was really cool. That started really with this like simple question that we wanted to answer, which is like, how are people giving and asking for help online? And so like the insights from that report helped inform so much and continues to at GoFundMe, like social, digital, like product, like all of these things. And so it was super cool to be able to like illustrate that. And then we went into like some specific examples. We talked about like the GoFundMe creator program and how it started out just like organically. Like creators at GoFundMe aren't even just, high profile big influencers. Like oftentimes they can just be like an everyday person who has started a fundraiser and it's taken off and like it, suddenly they're, they have a platform and they have like a huge audience. And so how we used our findings to actually create the creator program there, which was really cool. Then we talked a little bit about Reddit. We talked about Substack. We talked about their streaming widget that they have, which is this like really cool product that they have for streamers where like if you have a live stream, you can have this like fundraising tool as you're streaming your content. And then from there, I talked about the future of social and how there's this idea of like older social media is all about output, content calendars, like, managing audiences. And now it is like new social is much more about like fostering these communities and how you want to try to create like relationships with people and like smaller, like fewer relationships in higher quality ways will actually get you more reach in a lot of places, like we talked about with Reddit, than again, just like trying to mass publish everywhere. So anyway, what else is there?
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile that with like a lot of my clients I'm talking to and social teams? It's like they're being tasked with scale, like not even just like we need to like do something with this one community, but we need to figure out a strategy to activate across 1,000 communities next year. And so that like, while I know that like that's not necessarily the best strategy, it is kind of the mandate that everyone is being given, like use AI to scale this, like whatever program we're doing. So like how do we keep that humanity piece while also doing the scale piece?
I know. Well, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that like the roles of social teams are going to like evolve and like what the goals are and what the KPIs are. And I think we're in this weird moment right now where there is a convergence of like the AI tool is here. This is what has been done historically, but it's at a breaking point, right? Like there's no way any one person team, even if you had like Gary Vee and you have a team of exponential amounts of people, like these are all feeds. They're never ending. It's built to do this, So I think that like this idea of like what's old is new again, returning back to like in person, like one of the things I was talking about is how like every great digital strategy now actually like brings people together in real life. And so I do think that there is this like this return to like it's what I'm gonna say is like my thesis. It's like it's resetting. It's going to reset and it's going to change and it's going to have different goals and KPIs than it has historically. That's my like prediction.
Well, we solved it. The prediction piece for next year, the great 2026 reset.
Emma, like whip this through the AI. Get some reach on this, Emma. No, but it was honestly really, really cool. I loved the experience. Met some really cool people, and I'm excited. I'm excited to do that again. I mean, I think my own presentation skills, like oh my gosh, like I was telling you guys when we were off camera before, but like I can't memorize things in the same way. I really needed, I had my old school note cards like from, oh my gosh, I like literally have them all here. Like literally from like back in high school, I was like memorizing. I was thinking to myself, like, how do actors do this? Like, this is, so for me, it was fulfilling in multiple ways, both like professionally, but personally, I like aspire to do things like TED Talks, but wow, it is like, I have a bit of a learning curve, but it was really great, and I'm really proud of how it went. So anyway. That's it.
really nice. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this longer conversation.
That would be my fault again.
No, I mean, it's like if things are like you just want to keep going. I mean,
Yeah.
we make the rules here. And so we'll be off next week for the holidays, but this video will be up for your on-demand viewing on Friday. So if there are any nuggets you want to return to, it will be on our Substack. Thank you, Melissa and Megan, for chatting and answering all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for producing.
Of course. Yeah, I love open tap. My favorite meeting.
Same. Okay. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.